there. I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. And I'm actually live recording through Facebook Live this episode on my Graced Health podcast Facebook page. They got to see a little bit of behind the scenes. They got to see my puffy face for today because I ate the wrong thing. They got to have a little time out while I had to let my dog out. So, that's just life, right? Like that's just how it goes on. Today's question on this Ask the Trainer series is, what's the difference between energy bars and protein bars? So before I get to the answer of that, I just kind of want to peel that back a little bit. The FDA has particular labeling. And if they say good source of blank, calcium, protein, fiber, whatever it is, or excellent source of, or high end, then that has particular things that means. They can't just say that. So if a product says high in or excellent source of something, so in this case for today, well, let's just call it protein, then that means it needs to supply at least 20% of the RDA of that item. So if you see something that's a good source or, a high in or excellent source of calcium, then that means it's supplying at least 20% of your RDA of calcium. And I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head what that is. Good source means 10 to 19%. So when you see that on a label, that's what that means. Now, for reference sake, the RDA is that you need 50 grams of protein. We have talked a little bit about protein and what your individual needs are. If you are active and particularly if you are strength training, if you are doing things where where you're sore, you probably need a little bit more than that. There's a whole lot of debate that goes along with that. I'm not going to get into that here. But personally, I try and get at least 100 grams of protein a day. That's just my own personal goals. Ideally, I get to 114, but that's normally not it. I'm normally right around 100 grams. So if I pull out something and it says excellent source of protein, that means it has 20% of 50 grams because that is the daily value for protein. Well, that's 10 grams of protein. So maybe that's excellent if you're not getting a whole lot of protein, but that doesn't mean high protein. So that's something to be aware of when you are talking about protein bars. Of course, if it just says protein bar, then that just means there's protein in it. If it's not making any claims, then what I really want you to do and what I really would like to educate you on today is taking that bar, whatever it is, turning it over and looking at the label. How many grams of protein does it actually have? How many calories does it have? How many grams of carbohydrates does it have? And how many grams of fat does it have? And you can look at the fiber too, which is a source of, it's a component of carbohydrates. So, there's no one right way, but it's important to know what are your goals for that. Now, if your goals are to have something in the morning, like a breakfast bar in the morning before you send your kids off to school, or you're giving it to them, or you're going off to work whenever we actually go back to work again, then having something that doesn't have much protein in it, like 5 grams or less, that's not going to stick with you very long. I know there are people in my house, I will not name names, who tend to get like fig bars and Z bars, which I have no problem with. If I had a problem with, I wouldn't buy them, but I keep trying to educate my kids like, hey, you need to have a little bit of sustenance in you. You need to have some more protein. So energy bars are basically higher carbohydrate bars. They are going to be things like your Z bars, your fig bars, turn it around, look at the carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is an energy. That's all that means. It just means there's a lot of carbohydrates in it. If it says energy bar, it has a lot of carbohydrates in it. There's a time and a place for that. There's also a time and a place where that's not what's going to be fueling your body best. Protein bars, on the other hand, can range from having that good source of protein, which is the it's going to be like 5 grams on the label to anything up to 30 grams or something more than that. I don't really think that we need to be consuming any more than 30 grams in a setting. And in fact, our body digests it best if we can do it in, 20 to 30 grams 4 times a day. That's just how it works, rather than just loading it all on at the same time. So be aware of how much protein is. Don't trust the label. I mean, yes, they have had to adhere to FDA guidelines if they're saying good source of or high quality or, excellent source of or high end, but it may not be what you think it is. So what's the difference between energy bars and protein bars? It is how much carbohydrates does it have and how much protein does it have, but specifically turn that over, look at the label, see how much it really has and what your body needs in relation to that. It may not be as much as you think it is. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.